Hello, everyone. My name is Alden Blevins, and I am the Events and Communications Coordinator at NAMI, Virginia. We thought that in addition to doing our live virtual kickoff events, we would go ahead and record some of that content so that you could view it at home on your own time. So we're going to go ahead and break it up into a couple segments for you to view, with this one being the first in our kickoff series. We knew that our kickoff events would be really important this year due to the nature of this year's walk. We're so hopeful that a year from now, we'll all be together in Richmond. But with so many variables this year, we wanted to support our local affiliates and participants with a Walk Your Way. More info on what that means and what that will look like soon. So as always, we do want to go ahead and first give a big thank you to our sponsors. You'll see our national sponsors listed on the screen right now. And here are some of our local Virginia state sponsors. I want to just remind you again that these sponsors lay the foundation for our walk's success each year. We absolutely could not put on a successful walk without them and are incredibly grateful for their ongoing support. You might see some familiar businesses you recognize looking through this list. Part of our hope with NAMIWalks is not just to fundraise for the important programs we run, such as peer-to-peer, family-to-family groups, or educational courses for families, schools, and communities. It is our hope that we can form a connected network of support in our communities to remind us that we are not alone. So our theme for this year's walk is suicide awareness and prevention. We know just how important networks of support can be. In the context of the last year, the CDC has already highlighted the sharp increase they've seen in the need for mental health services and support. Because we know that this time has been especially difficult for so many, we hope to share a message of hope for those who need it most. That said, our theme for the 2021 walk here in Virginia is suicide awareness and prevention. In alignment with this, we have a special challenge we're taking on this year called the 130 Challenge. I'm actually taking it on myself. We'll talk more about the 130 Challenge soon, but because part of our mission and message at NAMI Virginia is always centered around fighting stigma and educating others about mental illness, it's important for us to take a brief moment here today to share some information before we get to the fun stuff. We hope that you may in turn share it with others as you spread the NAMI message throughout the state. So one of the first key things about suicide awareness and prevention is knowing who needs your help. So there are risk factors and warning signs. Risk factors are characteristics that make it more likely that an individual will consider, attempt, or die by suicide. Risk factors are characteristics that make it more likely that an individual will consider, attempt, or die by suicide. Warning signs, instead, are actions or behaviors indicating an immediate or increased risk of suicide. Risk factors are important because they help highlight fairly consistent characteristics that you might notice in someone's life. Warning signs may be less constant and consistent, but are more indicative of potential suicidality. While no single risk factor or warning sign can fully predict suicide, these indicators often highlight cause for concern in the form of a mounting crisis. So when we talk about these risk factors, there's all types of risk factors that a person can experience. They can experience individual risk factors, such as a previous suicide attempt, mental illness, social isolation, criminal problems, financial problems, such as loss of job, impulsive or aggressive tendencies, legal problems, serious illness, or substance abuse disorder. That can be prolonged as well as increased use. There's also community risk factors. These are the things that maybe aren't a part of a person's life, but are a part of the systems that we live and work within. This could be barriers to healthcare, cultural or religious barriers, such as the belief that suicide is a noble resolution to a personal problem, or a suicide cluster within their community or support system. Then we also have societal risk factors. Societal risk factors include stigma associated with mental illness, help seeking and easy access to lethal means, and unsafe media portrayals of suicide. Last but not least, we also have relationship risk factors. These can include adverse childhood experiences such as child abuse, neglect, bullying, family history of suicide, relationship problems such as breakup violence or loss, or sexual violence. There's also some important cultural caveats to consider with all of the risk factors listed above, just to include a few examples. Stress resulting from the prejudice and discrimination, such as family rejection, bullying, or violence, is a known risk factor for suicide amongst lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender youth. The historical trauma suffered by American Indians and Alaskan Natives, such as resettlement, destruction of cultures and economies, contributes to a high suicide rate among this particular population as well. For men in their middle years, stressors that challenge traditional male roles, such as unemployment or divorce, have been identified as important risk factors in that subgroup. So there are all these different types of risk factors that you might notice in the people around you when considering if they're at risk for suicide. Now we have our list of warning signs. This is a long list, but they're all important triggers that may indicate immediate risk or serious risk, especially if the behavior is new, has increased, or seems related to a painful event, loss, or change. These warning signs include talking about wanting to die or killing oneself, looking for a way to kill oneself, talking about feeling hopeless or having no reason to live, talking about feeling trapped in unbearable pain, talking about being a burden to others, increasing the use of alcohol or drugs, sleeping too little or too much, withdrawing from family, friends, and community, or feeling isolated, showing rage or talking about seeking revenge, displaying extreme mood swings, often talking about wanting death, dying, or suicide, making comments about feeling hopeless, helpless, or worthless, expressions of having no reason for living or no purpose in life, reckless behavior or more risky activities, immediate stressors, or other painful life experiences. As someone who has my own experience with a lived mental illness, I know that list can be hard to hear and hard to read. But these signs are really important in knowing if your friends, your family, and the people you love are safe or if they are at risk. And then in turn, what you can do to help them once you've identified that they might be at risk. Observed warning signs in individuals should always be taken seriously, but special attention should also be paid if they're paired with risk factors. Again, these indicators often highlight cause for concern in the form of a mounting crisis. It is always worth investigating and helping to alleviate before it reaches a life-threatening situation. The power of our community to create health is far greater than any sole physician, clinic, or hospital. When each of us carries a little bit of the burden and the load of supporting one another, we can truly help address the problem of suicide in our own communities. So you might be wondering, if I know someone is at risk, what can I do, or when might they be at risk? So there are two different types of risk you might identify someone as being at. Imminent risk is a short period, usually 30 minutes or less. In this period, you should stay with the individual, talk to them, and help them regain control. Use crisis prevention materials available, such as the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. We'll link some of those in the content of this post. Then there's long-term risk. How you can help people with long-term risk is by reducing the level of crisis. You can increase their connection to individuals, family, community, or social institutions. You can provide social support because feeling belonging is essential. You can help provide connections to services and resources that help alleviate stress, whether those be behavioral health services, financial support, housing services, or legal services. And you can also help connect them with problem solving and conflict resolution skills, such as seeking out a qualified therapist or clinician. Promoting general awareness on some of these taboo topics and reducing stigma is an important part of what we can do at the systemic level to affect change. That's where NAMI Walks, the 130 Challenge, and you come in. So we know that an important part of why we walk is to promote awareness of mental health and reduce stigma. We also know an important part of why we walk is to raise funds for NAMI's mission of advocacy, education, and support for those who need it. We also walk to build community and let people know that they are not alone. To help do this year, reduce that stigma, and begin the conversation about suicide awareness and prevention within your own communities, we teamed up with the Run for the 132 and Colin Lowther, and we decided to come up with the 130 Challenge. So we'll be hosting our walk again on the United Day of Hope, along with thousands of other NAMI walkers and participants across the country. As I mentioned, we're taking on that 130 Challenge, and you might ask, what is that? The 130 Challenge is representative of the 130 lives a day that are lost to suicide within the US. You can participate within this challenge however you like. We'll have some ideas later on, and I'll make sure to share them on the screen for you. But for example, my team is walking a cumulative 130 miles. So instead of me walking 130 miles by my own, each person on my team is tracking their walking throughout the next month separately, and we'll put them all together as a team to meet our goal of 130 by the end of our walk. There's some other ideas for how you could use the 130 Challenge. You could do 130 repetitions of your favorite exercise and maybe even take a video and share it with us on social media. You could tag 130 Facebook friends in one of your NAMI Walks posts talking about suicide awareness and prevention and fundraising for NAMI. You could email 130 people to be your donors for this NAMI Walks Challenge. The possibilities with Walk Your Way and the 130 Challenge are endless. Think about how your voice, and your platform can highlight that number of 130 to bring it to the front of the conversation, because those lives and those people matter. That kind of brings us into why we walk for NAMI on a more global point of view. And I will be back with your next virtual kickoff video to tell you a little bit more about that. See you next time.